Welcome in the latest episode of the Bet in the Pitch Major League Baseball podcast for the August 16th Major League Baseball card. I'm your host, _G Warner, across all social media platforms. Thank you to the subscribers on new ones on YouTube at the _G Warner. Also, for all of you following the podcast, wherever your podcast in normal, non-video, though I guess there's video options. You can search Betting the Pitch, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. And of course, if you want some reels, and of course, YouTube Shorts, you can search at the _G Warner on both those platforms. Instagram.com at the _G Warner. Also have Patreon subscribers out there, patreon.com/real_G Warner. If you want all my leans, plays, write-ups across all sports, download the app, turn on notifications, get a buzz every time I lock something in, and make sure you get the same prices that I'm getting. So today's episode, we're actually going to do live Major League Baseball preparation for Sunday, August 16th. I'm not used to usually do it the night before, so it's a little bit easier with lineups in front of us, and we'll see with the game starting in about 25 minutes. Let's see how far we can get, and hopefully this goes well, but we'll see. So we'll start in Major League Baseball. We had one game already, first pitch thrown, the Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays, which has been a really competitive series so far. The Orioles trying to find their way into the playoffs. So we'll skip that one. We'll start with the Arizona Diamondbacks and Michael Soroka on the road to the Atlanta Braves and Bryce Elder. Currently Soroka plus 112 underdog. It's down a cent from a few minutes ago when I logged these prices initially. So not a first look today. In terms of the total, we have 9, juice minus 115 to over. First 5 is 5, minus 113 to over there as well. So we're expecting some runs. Yesterday's game, we did see a lot of those. Arizona with a come from behind victory, if you call it that. Not a great first inning from Eduardo Rodriguez, giving up 2 runs, but they then scored 10. Nolan Arenado's huge. And the best part, I think, about it all is that they didn't need to use Juan Murillo, who was warming up in the bullpen with the D-backs ahead, but ended up only going to Ginkel and Loaizaga as the D-backs are fighting for the playoffs. And on the outside looking in, a lot because of how well the Padres have been playing, but with a win yesterday and the Padres lost, that certainly helped. Michael Soroka, the question for him is this is his first start in a while coming off the IL. I'm not sure when his last actual outing was, which is a nice part. I can look that up too because we do have the internet at our fingers. So he came off the IL to pitch against the Rockies on Monday through 4 1/3 scoreless innings. Tough park to pitch in Arizona. Not an easy one in Atlanta either. And this is kind of a romantic return to glory potentially for Soroka, going back to Atlanta where he's played a lot of his career and honestly was just never on the mound because he was never healthy. I think he had 2 Achilles ruptures and other injuries that really plague a pitcher. In terms of lineups today, the Braves, they're maybe desperate, but they're in first place by a long shot in the NL East. And these games don't seem to matter as much as they do to Arizona. The Arizona's played really well. Honestly, I think they said they left an entire population on base in the first game of the series, but converted that in game 2. Right now, we have Dom Smith DHing today. No Mauricio Dubon after a really bad misplay defensively when he's like a utility Gold Glove winner. Misjudged the ball in the first inning. I think that was enough for the D-backs to win on Friday night. With that said, that's the only real change from the Braves lineup at this point. From the Arizona side, we've got Nootbaar, who's currently sitting out on the bench tonight, as is Ryan Waldschmidt of the walk-off winner against the Dodgers last Friday night. In our James McCann at catcher, which means Gabby Moreno is switching to DH today. And then Jorge Barrosa, great center fielder, is in as a defensive option. And I think the real question for me is how much do the D-backs care about this? A ton, because they're fighting for the playoffs, and they've been really hurt before, missing the playoffs barely. I think it's by like a single game or even less than that. I think they lost the tiebreakers a couple seasons ago, and it's been rough for them. I love Torey Lovullo as a manager. And honestly, Torey Lovullo, is so focused on pronouncing the last name. He's someone I want to back. So I actually like the D-backs here. I'm a little worried about Soroka going deep in this game, but the Braves starting Bryce Elder is just not an arm that I'm really afraid of at this point, I got to say. So I'm actually going to look and see what's available right now, as I always scan across multiple sports books just to see what the prices look like for me, or at least the ones I'm attached to. So let's get in here, and then also have a great, if you're interested in any social betting and you're in the United States, is the what's it called? Brothrow is a new website I've been using. They're not sponsoring me, so I'm not saying anything of that, but I do like what they offer to myself, which is literally a betting exchange. You exchange through PayPal, and I think it's a really good spot to be if you're looking for that sort of thing and have access to capital in that sort of way and don't want to wait for payouts. So check it out, Brothrow, or just hit me up at the Real_G1 across all social media platforms. I'm happy to talk you through it if you'd like to join. I know I've had some Patreon subscribers sign up there before. I'm looking forward to getting more of that out there. It's a really great site. The more users, the better for me, I think. So looks like, speaking of, on Brothrow, I got the D-backs plus 115. On one of my locals, I got plus 108. In another one, plus 113. And let's go to plus 108. So I think I'm going to take some of these plus 115s right now, see how many of those I can get. I'm just trying to get the best price out there. Let's see. Yeah, so saving 2 cents. I mean, it seems like a small potatoes, honestly, but it's a big deal over the long term of a Major League Baseball season. And I think there's a lot of value in there. I think I'll just take all the activity that's out there on the D-backs. Backed them yesterday. That went fairly well. Going for the sweep, but I'm not really afraid of that because their bullpen's in great position. And that should be everything. So the bet on the D-backs is in, and you just watched me do something live. Or I guess I talked about it while I did it. So let's go D-backs. We'll move to the next game on the list, and let's make sure I'm back still here. Yes, okay. So let's go next to the Boston Red Sox and the Pittsburgh Pirates. We got Patrick Sandoval starting for the Red Sox at Lake Backer. A trade from the Miami Marlins is how Backer moved to Pittsburgh. Current number is the Red Sox minus 103 as an underdog on the road, minus 107 coming back in the Pirates. Total is 8 in this one, minus 117 to over. And we saw a very low-scoring game until the 9th inning yesterday in Pittsburgh. Sonny Gray was awesome. I'm not sure we can expect that same sort of thing from Sandoval today, but he's been, I think, fairly solid considering he wasn't great, though he pitched for the Angels for a while, and that's probably why. But honestly, pitching to a 3.30 ERA looks great compared to his 1.7 WHIP, which is very scary. He's he has one less strikeout this season than inning pitched, 29 and 30. Only one quality start in 30 innings, so he's not been going deep in games. His last start was his best. He did take a loss in Toronto, but got a quality start. ERA of 3, 1.83 WHIP is terrifying. 2 was his WHIP before that, 1.4 before that, 1.5 before that, 2.0 before that. So it's basically his best WHIP this season was his first start. Looks like July 9th at the White Sox, a 2-1 victory. His WHIP was 1.38. So we're expecting base runners here. That's a concern, though I got to say Pittsburgh has not been hitting very well. So that does interest me a lot, I think, to be against Pittsburgh because Backer is, I mean, he can give you a few innings, but I can't imagine he's going to go too deep in this game. So for me, I don't know. I'm very interested in the Red Sox right now. I've been playing much more inferior, or they've been playing worse ever since that incredible run they've had where they won like 30 out of 37 games or something like that. But I think at this point, there's, to me, faith in the Red Sox. I love the way they can close games with that bullpen. The Pirates have improved theirs, but I still like we haven't seen much. The wins for the Pirates have been blowouts, and we haven't really seen their retooled trade deadline bullpen really do much in the last few days. So I think for me, it's only Red Sox here, and I'm looking to see if that minus 103 at BetOnline turns into an even money underdog somewhere else, because that's probably what I need to get invested with the Boston Red Sox. Move next to the New York Yankees and Ryan Weathers on the road at the Toronto Blue Jays and Dylan Cease, one of the smallest totals I've seen all season. I'll get to that in a second. The Yankees are plus 108 underdog, minus 119 coming back on the Jays. Total is 6.5 minus 120 to over, even money to under. So we're seeing some money come in on over, probably because it's less than that key number of 7. The first 5, let me also jot that down because I do like under here. Let's see. First 5 is Do some housekeeping on my spreadsheet, unfortunately. Oh, just lost everything. That's not good. All right, let's try this again. Live housekeeping on Excel or Google Sheets, I guess is more accurate. Okay, so first 5 number on this should be 3.5 probably. Yeah, 3.5 minus 133. That is extremely expensive and a very, very small total. But it reflects the Yankees who can't hit. Didn't do anything after an early run against the Blue Jays bullpen day game on Saturday. And then Dylan Cease, who's been awesome. The question is how long could Dylan Cease keep this up? He's certainly shown arm talent and the ability before. Totals I don't love going below 4 on the first 5. I got to say, certainly you can win those, and there's value in them. I'm trying to do a little bit better job of locking in the under 4s when they're available as soon as I see them. And they're available, which overnight a lot of times is just available at Bet Online, sportsbetting.ag. If you need a link for those, please hit me up at @the_G Warner. Happy to give you a referral code, especially with a lot of juice savings coming in the English Premier League coming up. But with that said, Ryan Weathers has been very solid. After kind of a slow start to his Yankees career, the Jays not really hit well this year at all. And the Yankees are really missing. They've retooled their lineup at the deadline, but we still haven't seen them hit the ball very well. They do have some defensive concerns. I think traded some of those offensive struggles, try to get some more power and hitting in their lineup. But Luis Garcia is not a first baseman. And honestly, his barehanded throw into the almost into the bleachers on Friday night lost the game and was honestly got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a concussion. He hasn't hit at all this year, but I do think not having that lineup is important. For me, I think under is still very interesting to me. Let's see. Until he gets 7, though, I don't think I want much to do with it, and I really don't love that under 3.5 first 5. Well, next we move to the Washington Nationals. Jacob Irvin on the road at the New York Mets and Christian Scott. The Nats a plus 148 underdog, minus 164 coming back on the Mets. Totals 8.5. This one even money to under, minus 120 to over. And I don't really want to play any unders with this team, the Nationals, because their bullpen was a disaster and they did nothing to actually improve it at the trade deadline. The Mets trade everybody away and hurt their bullpen as well. So you're really hoping to stay in this with starters. Christian Scott should mow down a Nationals team, which is not intelligent. They're too young, take too many ridiculous chances, swing at too many bad pitches, bunt on their own, it seems, in really dangerous scenarios, bailing pitchers out like they did on Friday night with Robert Stock. The Mets have been playing really well, kind of had a little bit of bump in the road at Atlanta, but I mean, that happens to a lot of teams. Hopefully not the D-backs today, obviously. But I think for this one, there's not much for me to do here. I think we skip on to the Miami Marlins, Yordi Perez on the road to the Cincinnati Reds. And we have Yordi Perez, a minus 115 road favorite to Nick Lodolo. And I think that's just the market finally giving up on Nick Lodolo's supposed talent that just never really has delivered. I don't play road favorites, as anyone knows, especially the Patreon subscribers, patreon.com. So that's @G Warner. But Lodolo's a plus 104 underdog. It's a little interesting. We've seen a little bit of money coming in on the Reds, plus 109 down to plus 104. Total in this one is 8.5. Juice minus 122 now to under. So there's some belief in a low-scoring game here. I could certainly see that with Miami, especially with Eury Perez, who's one of the best arms out there in baseball. Was really hoping to get him an underdog here today. A pitcher I liked against a pitcher I don't like, but don't have that, unfortunately, in front of us. So I'll skip on to the next game on the list, and that's Chicago White Sox and the Detroit Tigers. We'll go to Sean Burke, a plus 103 underdog on the road at Drew Anderson, minus 113 on the Tigers. Totals 8 in this one, minus 110 both ways. Seen a little bit of over money coming in, but not much to speak of. The White Sox have been good this series. Took the first one a lot, become behind 4 home runs, I think it was. Fell behind early 3-1, but turned that around and then led a lot of the game on Saturday. And huge for the White Sox because they've clinched the tiebreaker with the Tigers. Bad for the Tigers who've lost the tiebreaker with the Guardians as well. But really the Tigers had finally found their way back in the last playoff spot and are now out of it because they've lost 2 games at home to a division rival, and one that if they had won this series, they would have the tiebreaker and only need to tie the White Sox. Now they need to finish ahead of them in order to win the AL Central. But I think it's possible. Sean Burke's got a good arm. The White Sox bullpen's a question for me behind him. But the Tigers are likely, they're pitching chaos light. Drew Anderson is more of a starter than they've used in the past. But the Tigers, the real question to me is what they're going to do with their bullpen. Gonna pull up the Tigers now. Ross Resource is my favorite spot, by the way. Probably visit that site more than anybody. Best spot to see a pretty clean, color-coded version of lineups and bullpen usage, which I think is the most important thing. Drew Summers worked through 27 pitches out of the Tigers bullpen on Saturday. That's an important lefty for him, but Tyler Holton is more of their leverage lefty, if you will. We saw Finnegan throw 14, Tanner Rainey, and that's Psycho, who's back to them big somehow. He threw 8. So rest of the bullpen looks very, very solid. And I do think the Tigers, the lineup that has, they're basically their traditional lineup. Max Clark back in there, Colt Keith back in there, Jack McKinstry's back in there. So pretty much their lefty platoon starting lineup is back in. No Eduardo Valencia, who's probably a right-handed bat off the bench coming in later in the game, which is important. But from a White Sox perspective, let's see. Trey Cruz, got designated for assignment. I don't think he played at all for the Tigers, though. Seemed to get called up and then just sat there the whole time. So it kind of makes sense to DFA somebody. But from the White Sox perspective, they've used Grant Taylor, their supposed closer, although they have a closer by committee with 4 listed that way, and Brian Hudson the last 2 days. So both of those guys should be down. Sean Newcomb threw 25 pitches to start as an opener on Friday, and he's listed as a closer on roster resource. That might need some attention. So to me, it looks like Newcomb and Hicks at the end of the game, Brazoban as well. Certainly those are the arms I would trust the most. Hopefully get into the bullpen, get a lot of Eric Fetty today. We'll see if that ends up happening. But Sean Burke's been good and a solid arm. I do think that the Tigers ought to be desperate in this one and probably will do everything they can to win this game today to try to show some face and get their name back in the playoffs race. We got one more game that starts in this early 12:35 Central Time spot. So let's go and find a price here now on the Tigers because I am interested in backing them here. Let's see. So I've got scanning the numbers out there as well. Probably really interesting podcast content, but I got a -120. I've got a -115, a -120. Those are the availabilities. Bro Throw, we can check that. Again, anyone who wants referral there, earn some money, and I'll get some too from the company. So let me know. Great spot to be, certainly. So Tigers looks like on Bro Throw, we could get some -110s out there. So that's certainly a good spot to be. I think it's time to get involved and invested and back a Tigers team that I do trust to. I think they can win this division, and I think they will. But it's really not a great start this weekend. But on the bright side, they won't be playing the White Sox much moving forward, to say the least. Here we go. Okay. So we've now got 2 bets at this 12:35 window. The Detroit Tigers right now -115 and the Arizona Diamondbacks +115. So there we go. Some interesting stuff there, hopefully, for everybody. You can try to screenshot all my bets just to make sure that the sportsbooks grade them correctly, or mainly that I put them in correctly is also part of it, to say the least. Okay, so now let's go back to let's alert our Patreon subscribers, by the way. So basically, if you download the app, turn on notifications, you get a buzz every time I lock something in, because I go through and put I basically send a notification to everybody. One more 12:35 CT. Hopefully, any of you that are here live with me, or can listen to the version of me doing this live for everybody afterwards. Okay, so now let's go back to where we just were. Last game on the San Diego Padres for this early 12:35 Central Time. Starts in 8 minutes. Got the San Diego Padres starting Casey Mize on the road to Cleveland Guardians and Tanner Bybee. Bybee, even money underdog at home, -110 on the Padres. Total is 8, -110 here, both ways. Total first 5 is 4.5, -120 to under. And my general thought process on the Guardians is that they're not a very good hitting team. And so I generally want to be involved with their unders if possible. Let's check the roster resource on them today, what the lineup looks like. High scoring opening game, low scoring next one, though, I guess right around the total. So Hanau and Patrick Bailey are not in the lineup for the Padres, or excuse me, for the Guardians. In comes Austin Hedges and Rhys Hoskins. Hoskins DHing, so he won't hurt you defensively, thankfully, but definitely a big home run threat, and that's a concern, especially with Casey Mize. Though you should know the lineup well. They should know him because of his long entire career in Detroit before getting traded to the Padres. In terms of bullpens, looks like no Colin Holderman after working the last 2 days for the Guardians, but everyone else is available, and I expect Cade Smith, even if the game is going the wrong direction for Cleveland, and that's something I think is important for totals, is getting the better arms in there, even if it's not a leverage situation that they'd normally be used in. As for the Padres, they've not used Mason Miller or Morejon, who worked a lot in the Brewers series and a lot of stressful innings, especially Morejon on Wednesday through 36 pitches, but everyone should be available there as well. So here comes another play for me, and I'm going to go under in this game. No Campusano, who's been hitting the ball really, really well, surprisingly, probably best that his career has been. Freddie Fermin comes in, solid defender. I like him as a catcher. So let's go grab that under 4.5 and that under 8 full game. So let's do that. So let's inform the Patreon subscribers first, though. That is Guardians under 8, half a bet, and Padres under 4, first 5, half a bet, under 4.5, first 5. Okay, so basically, if you just downloaded the Patreon app, turn on notifications, you should get a buzz instantly when I lock this in, because I have sent something to inform everyone that we're out there. And now let's go lock it in. Try to tell the people first before we get in there, because I'm such a great guy. So let's go under 8, and first 5 will go 4.5 minus 120. Should be what we have here. Let's go. Great podcast content as we're trying to make some bets in the background. I'm sure everyone's loving that, but here we are. Okay, so let's go and do that. Okay. And voila. Now we can move on to a little bit later of a window if we give someone a little bit more time. Like I said, screenshot the bets just to make sure. Okay, so next game on the list will be, it looks like Philadelphia and Minnesota. All right, let's get out of here. And we're already 23 minutes in, so we're going a little slower than usual, but that's what happens when you're live. So we'll go now to the Philadelphia Phillies and the Minnesota Twins. That's actually a 12:40 start. Good, gives some people a little bit more time. Philadelphia Phillies start Andrew Painter, who basically has gotten the unlucky position to replace Ranger Suarez after they didn't offer him a contract, let him walk and go to the Boston Red Sox. It's been a slow start to his Major League Baseball career. He'd basically been batting practice for a while, but has improved a lot and has been good in his last couple starts. He goes on the road to the Twins, who've not been hitting well. Twins are an even money underdog, starting Dean Kramer, who was really good his last start against Baltimore, which is kind of a surprise because he pitched there his whole career. Got traded from the O's, and you'd think they would have known him very well, especially with how the O's have been playing, but he was great. Maybe kept some notes on his teammates when he switched dugouts. But the Phillies are the minus 110 favorite. I was hoping to get them as an underdog, kind of like Miami here. Don't have that. Don't play road favorites. Totals 9.5. That's on juice minus 120 to under. I think it could see some runs, but honestly, I like what I've seen from Painter recently, and I'm kind of in a spot where I'm trying to sell the Phillies lineup because I just don't really trust them. We'll next go to 2:15 start Central Time, so we've got a couple hours for this one, so we can go a little bit more in depth maybe. We have Hunter Dobbins starting for the St. Louis Cardinals on the road at the Chicago Cubs, and Edward Cabrera coming off the IL to make a start. Dobbins plus 162 underdog. We've seen some Cubs money coming in. Total is 9 minus 120 to the under here. And the big question for me is, do we trust Hunter Dobbins? At this point, I think he's a solid arm. Don't really trust much more than that, though, I got to say. Not really a believer much in kind of who he is at this point. I think at this point, I believe the Cardinals more than I did certainly coming into the year. They've definitely got a spunky bunch of young players who have outperformed, I think, expectations by a long shot this season. I don't know that I necessarily believe that continues for good. But at the same time, like, I think there's a really good scenario here where they find a way. And honestly, they've been really competitive with the Cubs, and I think with a big win on Saturday night as well. That was important for them. And just trying to really hang around the Major League Baseball playoffs picture, a lot more difficult in the NL, of course, than it is in the AL at this point, with the record differences and how different the teams are performing, of course. But on the other side, how much can we trust from Edward Cabrera coming off the IL? Unfortunately, the IL is not a good spot to be in. Sometimes some guys can come off and just throw BBs off of it. But a lot of times the rehab starts, which Cabrera's been doing a bunch of those. They're against very, very weakened competition as the minor leagues. I don't think there's ever been as big of a gap between the talents between Major League Baseball and the minors as it is now. So it's a really large number for Cabrera. I want probably nothing to do with this game. Maybe want to see some runs in it. I just don't really trust the Cubs offense as much as I do their defense, and that will certainly steal some runs for the Cardinals. And so will Mason Wynn's right arm at shortstop for the Cardinals as well. Move next to a 15:05, 3:05 Central Time, 4:05 Eastern Time first pitch, with Hughes going for the Colorado Rockies at Blake Tidwell from the San Francisco Giants. He's gotten not a lot of respect from the marketplace. Only a minus 128 favorite of the Giants here at home to the Rockies, one of the worst teams in baseball, though you could argue the Giants are one of those as well. Total in this one's 8, minus 110 both ways. I probably lean under. Getaway day in San Francisco. Yes, in the daytime the ball flies further, but I think I'm more interested in a low-scoring game here. Don't trust the Rockies' offense outside of Colorado. Their bullpen has kind of been improving in the past couple seasons. Hard to show that because they're last in the NL in bullpen ERA or something like that. But that's because of where they play. Next, go to the Texas Rangers. Cody Bradford starting on the road to the Jacob Lopez and the Sacramento Athletics. Very proud of their Sacramento heritage yesterday, wearing it across their chest in a loss at home to the Rangers, despite leading for most of the game until Wyatt Langford stuck his head out there. Big one at that. Jacob Lopez, a 120 underdog at home, minus 132 on the Rangers, with Bradford also coming off the IL fairly recently after a long elbow reconstruction. I think Tommy John. Right now, total was 10, juiced very heavily to under. Now it's 9.5. Juiced very heavily to under, so clearly some under money is coming in. I don't know if they're believing Jacob Lopez, who's certainly got the stuff to miss some bats, but has not done it in his Major League Baseball career. The heat in Sacramento and the minor league park nature to it makes me feel that's an over park, especially when it's really hot in the daytime in Sacramento. I think there's a lot going against the pitchers in this matchup, so over 9.5 looks most interesting to me in that one. Well, next, go to the Kansas City Royals. Noah Cameron on the road at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and Russ Johnson, I think it is. Not a good arm. Don't need to know his name anyway. Plus 102 are the Angels at home, minus 112 on the Royals. Total is 9, juice minus 125 to under. I don't trust the Angels starting pitcher here. I don't trust their bullpen. I definitely don't trust the Royals bullpen at all to close the game. They lost the game last night, though, 1-0. First run that ended up scoring, decided it, and was late. So I guess that sort of thing can occur. I just don't think there's a lot of value to me on backing any road favorites, especially not the Kansas City Royals with a bad bullpen. Problem is, I don't really want much to do with the Angels at this point either. So that's the big issue on that side. 2 more games left to go, and then we'll release everyone from the live Betting the Pitch Major League Baseball edition. We'll go to Milwaukee Brewers and Logan Henderson, plus 161 underdog on the road at the Los Angeles Dodgers and Tarek Skubal. 7.5 is the total here. Juice minus 125 to under. First 5, 3.5 minus 108. Feels like it's just a tiny total, unfortunately, for two really good offenses. Different ways how they do it. The Dodgers with a lot of power, a lot of slug, and certainly built for that park. The Brewers on the other side are just putting pressure on you at all times. Jacob Mizorowski was awesome on Saturday in a win for the Brewers. Dodgers keep blowing games, honestly. And I don't really know. I didn't have the chance to last night. Tarek Skubal is fine, but this is the type of lineup that is just going to be hard on anybody. And Skubal, you could argue the swing and miss can get through a Brewers lineup much better than a lot of other pitchers, but they're still going to put pressure out there. And I like the more money is coming in on the Dodgers. Henderson, I think, is a great arm asset, really, and is someone I'm a believer in that changeup, I must say. So I'm fairly interested in the Brewers here. Plus 161 looks like a pretty good number to me, and it's climbing. So I'm going to wait and see how big this one gets. Last on the list is the Seattle Mariners. Brian Wu starting at the Houston Astros and Hunter Brown. This is the Sunday night baseball game, and it is the Mariners are plus 107 underdog, minus 118 coming back in the Astros. Total is 8. Juice minus 115 to under here. First 5, 3.5 was minus 123, plus 103 coming back on under. I imagine we see some over money coming in. This one settles at 4 for first pitch, and that's probably the lowest I would want to go. The big elephant in the room here is Brian Wu and his road performance this year. I think his ERA is like something like 5 runs different on the road versus at home. That's a big problem. Mariners are a big comeback victory on Saturday. Well, a lot of a bounce back is probably a better way to put it after a heartbreaking loss on Friday. Though they were gifted 2 runs in the first inning by really horrible umpiring, in my humble opinion. But I think at this point for me, it's too short of a price in the Astros. You could argue that they were down to their final strike on Friday because they were tied the game and then ended up walk-off home run the next pitch with a hanger from Andres Munoz. But at this point, to me, the Astros are the side I want. I think they're cheap as a home favorite, and I think that says something about the respect for the marketplace that it has for Seattle. But honestly, Seattle was a pretty cheap underdog a lot of the series in the Bronx this week and against the Yankees. That didn't go well for them. They got swept that series, and lost the first 2 and then won 1-0 in the final game on getaway day. This is a late game. I don't think this goes well for Brian Wu. That worries me the most for the under. I think under 8 probably okay. With a big push on 8 runs. I don't like the under 3.5 right now. First 5 though, and the Astros minus 118 looks very interesting to me in this matchup. So for our ultimate best bet on this episode, let's not go any further than that game. You've already heard that I've placed 3 bets while recording this live, but let's go Astros minus 118 for our best bet in this episode. And hopefully this is a good experience. If you liked it, throw it in the comments or reply on Twitter at @the_real_Drew Warner. 5-star reviews are always huge and help the podcast brand grow. Subscribers do as well. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Betting the Pitch.